Power of the Doctor has landed, and so marks the end of Jodie Whittaker's run as the 13th Doctor. What an episode. What a regeneration. We'll be discussing all elements of the episode in our review here on the channel. As such, this is your spoiler warning. Before I jump in and talk details, I want you to get typing your thoughts and opinions on this review in the comment section below. Go on, start typing right now. I also want to know exactly how excited you are for the next era of Doctor Who. It's going to be fantastic, I'm telling you. Greetings everyone, my name is Jack and welcome to Tardis Central. We are super excited to be discussing the Power of the Doctor with you, and even more so excited to be talking about the future of Doctor Who this coming week. Stay tuned. But mainly, if you want to keep up to date on the latest Doctor Who news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Tardis Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Doctor Who universe. Okay, let's go. Immediately we're thrown into the episode with the Cyberman Hijack of a space train. This whole sequence was rather fun, and I've got to say that the CyberMasters regeneration is still something that impresses me. Introducing themselves as the CyberMasters was fantastic, and combining with the music was also great. In terms of grabbing the viewer's attention, the opening sequence for Doctor Who worked well. You've got the tension of the CyberMasters and a reveal of a child, or supposed child, inside the train cargo. Immediately we've got a mystery about who this little girl is and what's happening in the episode. The episode reuniting former companions with current characters was awesome, especially with how it handles it in a deep cut level with connecting to the past. We see something that reminds us of a scene from Journey's End, you know, one where the Doctor's former companions all help pilot the Tardis following the main end of the episode. We see a similar element here when the Doctor uses her friends to help solve the mystery of the episode. So let's talk specifically about what stood out in this review. Oh, before I do, having returning companions, but also Kate Stewart back as Unit was great. Unit, as always, did seem to get trashed by the end by Ashad and his Cyber Legion. Okay, she can never really catch a break, can she? I'm guessing we'll hopefully see her in the 60th anniversary, as I don't think she's met the 10th Doctor, or should I say 14th Doctor. We've got to talk about the multiple Doctors appearing in this episode. So many appearing in one episode is great. The vestiges of the Doctor's consciousness were a fantastic touch to the character's previous incarnations. It almost gives us a visual look at how regeneration and the process works for a Time Lord like the Doctor in the subconscious. David Bradley, Colin Baker, Peter Davidson, Paul McGann, Sylvester McCoy, and finally Joe Martin. While the classics are of course the best, I'm really glad they decided to have Joe Martin back as the fugitive Doctor, even though it was the Doctor hologram, not technically her. However, her ending seemed to be just that. She signs off and that's the end of the story. I'd love to revisit her in the future, but that does not seem to be the case for right now. Firstly, I think Paul McGann was my favourite returning Doctor. He looked fantastic in costume and I love that for him. So Ace and Tegan. When we first met Ace and Tegan in this episode, they're already on the trail of what's happening in the world with the paintings. Cybermen and more weird things happening on Earth. I love how it seems these companions have not changed. They're already throwing themselves into the episode's mystery and I love that for them. They are once again introduced to the Doctor. Ace called the Doctor Professor, which I imagine excited many Doctor Who fans around the world. While Tegan's hostility towards the Doctor makes sense if you understand her history with the Doctor, especially as they left Tegan and travelled off. It's another case of the Doctor leaving their companions behind, and we almost see Yaz somewhat come to terms with that. We see a bit of this when the 10th Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith reunite during the school reunion episode. She basically blames the Doctor for leaving her in the wrong location. You know, I think the way this relationship is handled is good. It's not a case of them being super happy to see the Doctor, but rather some underlying hatred towards the character due to how they were previously treated. Ace is a bit more understanding. In comparison, Tegan's on the more hostile one. Speaking of Tegan's hostility, her actions in the chat with her master were fantastic, especially he tried to piss her off by bringing up Auntie Vanessa. Now Tegan's standing over Kate Stewart was awesome. It's rather emotional seeing a list of her activities that have taken place in her life. However, the real emotional moment comes when she faces her incarnation of the Doctor. We learn she's still somewhat suffering from post-traumatic stress again, as she remembers what the Cyberman did to Adric and how he died as the Doctor's companion. The same happens with Ace. In my opinion, these emotional moments enhance both the characters and the story in the Power of the Doctor. I love the fact we've got both of these characters back, and they did really enhance the story. They weren't just there for cameos, or hey, we've got people returning. They worked well in their own individual ways. So in a surprise cameo, which many of us knew about way ahead of time, we get to see Bradley Walsh back as Graham O'Brien. He previously departed the Tardis alongside Ryan. He jumps out in front of Ace and tries a psychic paper trick, which does not fully work due to Ace's knowledge of psychic paper and how it actually works. It's still great to have him back though, even if he was there for just a moment. So, the Master. I've got to commend Sacha Dhawan's portrayal as the Master. Sacha portrays the Master so easily and effortlessly, but still includes so much emotion and detail in the episode. I love it. And it's a shame this is his departure from a role. Comedy plays really well with Sacha's Master, especially when he begins playing Rasputin's music while preparing to force regenerate the Doctor. Force regenerate sounds like Star Wars. You know, I love this scene. It appears the Daleks and Cybermen were not big fans though, but I love the whole of it. The Master's Doctor dressing using previous Doctor's clothing was fantastic in terms of callbacks to previous incarnations of the Doctor. I really like the question mark jumper, which you all know is a callback to Who, given they were featured in this episode. Speaking of the Master designs, we get to see his Tardis. However, it is somewhat identical to the 13th Doctor's Tardis. It would have made more sense to have a different Tardis to the current Doctors. Maybe something like Tennant or Matt Smith's version. Hell, even one of the older ones could have worked. There are rather small but touching moments when the Doctor refers to the Master as them once being friends. We see this touched upon multiple times in Doctor Who, so it's nice to touch back on it once again. However, seeing the Doctor and Master confront each other once again was fantastic and something we've ever so much been looking forward to. I'm always adamant that the pair facing off against each other is a great element of Doctor Who as a show. However, we do see the Master strike back one more time and cause the alien entity to strike the Doctor. So, will the Master be back? We'll have to wait and see. However, I think Sacha Dhawan's portrayal of the character will go down in history as one of the best. As predicted, Dan departed the Doctor and Yaz within the first 15 minutes of the episode. We saw it coming based off the lack of presence in the promotional material for the Power of the Doctor. It's rather disappointing not to have Dan in the majority of this episode, especially since John Bishop was a fantastic addition to the cast of Doctor Who, though he does return towards the end of the episode during the companion reunion. It still feels lost without him though. Was Vinda needed? Surely the same story with a bit of modification, Dan could have taken his place. Just a thought. Ultimately, we're dealing with regeneration in this episode. So how does Jodie Whittaker's regeneration take place, and does it work properly with the final episode of the 13th Doctor? We're somewhat baited to a regeneration sequence via the Master attempting to force regenerate the Doctor's regeneration in this episode. A lot of regeneration. Yet the actual one comes towards the end of the episode, which is something many of us have been looking forward to. The touching scene of Yaz and the Doctor sitting on the TARDIS overlooking the Earth was great. It's sort of an addition to hammer home how the emotional background of the Doctor regenerating. Hearing the Doctor's touching conversation with Yaz was rather heartbreaking, especially we know how the Doctor feels for Yaz and Yaz feels for the Doctor. So, Jodie Whittaker, I've got to commend her. The acting in this regeneration sequence was really good, and the whole sequence always brought a tear to my eye. The Doctor seeing the sunset one last time with her current eyes was beautiful, and what better way to go than looking over the ocean at a sunset on the edge of a cliff. I guess we now know where the rumours of a Doctor falling off a cliff sort of came from. Glad it wasn't that. The regeneration sees David Tennant return as the Doctor. Yes, many of us were expecting this, but also many thought Ncuti would be arriving. However, right now it seems the Doctor will be revisiting one of his former faces. We'll be talking more about this next adventure of the franchise with Doctor Who in the more dedicated videos coming this week. But simply, wow, what a way to end an episode. I love it. So, this episode throws into the action right away. However, like Doctor Who Flux, it does jump around a fair bit, which might throw some viewers off what is actually happening and going on in the episode. Some may find the comedy aspects of the episode a little off-putting. However, personally, I think they complement and work well. Sacha Dhawan as the Master nailed his performance, and his comedy aspects worked well to enhance the character and what's going on. Looking at this episode as a whole, I'm still disappointed by John Bishop's lack of screen time. I preferred if he had appeared more. Again, I'll stand by my point that while Jacob Anderson is a great actor, I don't think his character of Ensign Vinda actually needed to be in this rather crammed episode. We've already got returning characters. Did he really need to return? And come to think of it, did the character actually do anything apart from shooting the Master Doctor? Overall, this episode was fantastic. A perfect send-off for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. Seeing her also come face to face with former Doctors was fantastic. Also, bringing back former companions was a great touch. I was initially concerned about them leaving the companions open-ended in this episode, as it appears Yaz dropped them back home, which was a done deal. However, before the Doctor regenerates, we get this nice session of former companions speaking with each other about their adventures with the Doctor. It was a touching moment, especially to see former companions like Ian, Mel, and many more. You know, a rather jarring thought was the need for so many titles on screen. We see this during the Master activating his plan. Was there a need to show the title of each volcano while showing them? It's just one of those little editing things that do not need to be included, but it's just a nitpick at the end of the day. So what's next for Doctor Who? Well, as with the Regeneration reveals, we've got more adventures of David Tennant as the 14th Doctor, not the 10th Doctor. Therefore, we can surely expect some explosive action coming November 2023. Before we jump to the 15th Doctor, which is Shooty. I can't wait for that. So for the last time, what do you think of the Power of the Doctor? Did it meet your expectations, perhaps blow past them, or underperform? The stage is yours, or rather the comment section. Regardless of how you felt, we look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions on the 13th Doctor's last episode of Doctor Who. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Doctor Who news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Tardis Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on Doctor Who. The links are down below. For now, I've been Jack here on Tardis Central. Thank you very much for joining us for the Power of the Doctor, and welcome to the next era of Doctor Who. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.